Flower essences have been used for thousands of years. The earliest recorded use goes back to the Egyptian times, 3,000 years ago, where there were written on papyrus how they used to collect the dew of plants to treat emotional imbalances. The earliest recorded European use was that of Hildegard von Bingen in the 11th century. She was an abbess, and she would have the nuns in the monastery put muslin sheets out over the flowers at night. In the morning, the nuns would collect the muslin sheets, which had absorbed the dew from the flowers. They'd wring them out, and they'd use that dew to treat people with emotional imbalances. Now, flower essences have also been used widely throughout Asia, Brazil, and here in Australia. And a lot of that information seems to have been lost. Edward Bach, who was an English doctor in the 1930s, pioneered the understanding of flower essences again. Now, in Australia, we know the Aborigines have used the essences for thousands of years also. When the white settlers first arrived, they recorded in their diaries how when the Aborigines were ill, they used to place waratahs in water, leave it out in the sun for a couple of hours, and then drink the water. There were rituals in the west of Australia where if someone had very chronic emotional problems, they dig a hole, line it with burning coals, place the person on top of bark, which was then on top of the coals, and then they would fill the hole in with soil, but also specific flowers to treat whatever emotional state they were out of balance with. They'd be covered up their neck, then they would pour water which would seep through the soil to the coals, creating a sauna effect. It was regarded as such a powerful healing technique that the soul of the person was altered, and they'd be given a new name to be called from that point on by the tribe. Sometimes with trees, which were very hard to eat, because that was another way they used get the healing quality of the plant, such as the Banksias, they would sit a person next to the Banksia tree for a number of days to absorb that healing quality of the tree and the flowers from the tree. In the 1850s, my great-great-grandmother came to Australia to work as a herbalist on the goldfields. And my great-grandmother and grandmother were some of the first white Australian people to seriously study the medicinal properties of our native plants. And I had the good fortune of growing up next door to my grandmother in Terry Hills, which is just northwest of Sydney. And both our properties backed onto National Park. And as a boy, I'd spend as much time as I could with my grandmother, helping her make the tinctures and the extracts. And she'd take me on a lot of bushwalks, and she'd point out the plants, telling me about the healing qualities. I'd also try and pretend to be sick so I wouldn't have to go to school and rather spend more time with my grandmother out in the bush. And from my grandmother, I got an appreciation in the bush there's tremendous, powerful healing qualities. And for the last 30 years, I've been developing the bush essences, which have been made from all over Australia. I left out my father in there. Well, he was the black sheep of the family. He was a pharmacist, but he was also a herbalist. So if you went to see him in the pharmacy with various problems, you'd end up with usually a herbal mix rather than allopathic medicine.